With all of the chaos and rumors surrounding conference realignment and surrounding the future of college athletics and NIL and revenue sharing and all the stuff that us football fans might not necessarily love to talk about, but have to talk about in the offseason, how is West Virginia University going to fare in all this chaos? Well, we're going to hear it directly from the source today, and we're bringing on none other than President Michael T. Benson from West Virginia University. President Benson, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Nice to see you. Thank you for the invite tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on and taking time out of your very busy schedule, I'm sure.
Well, I've as I told you off air, I've been watching your show. I try to consume as much WVU athletic content from 24/7 side, or the three guys, or you, or others. So I appreciate the great job our fans do in covering it in Mountaineer athletics.
I really appreciate that. And as from a fan's perspective, we appreciate having a president who is very passionate about sports, and we see you tweeting all the time, and we see you at the events, and it means a lot to us to know that you are doing what you can for the athletic department and you know the importance of sports to a university. And let's just go ahead and talk about that, President Benson. What with conference realignment and NIL and all the stuff surrounding college sports, it's very important for West Virginian schools like them to remain competitive on the football field, the men's basketball court, the women's basketball, the whole 9 yards, right? Can you explain why it's so important for schools to be competitive on the playing field?
Well, good question, and really a good kind of start to our conversation. I've heard Ren Baker say a lot, what athletics does is not the most important thing, but certainly the most visible thing. So if I were to go out and curate articles over the last, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks on West Virginia University, just type it in my search bar, probably 90% would be tied, maybe 85, 90% tied to some form of athletic competition.
Mm-hmm.
Our women's basketball scoring 118 points against their last opponent. Our men's basketball team upsetting a ranked opponent. The fact that our rifle team is on the cusp of another national championship. So all these things in the aggregate attract people to what the university is doing. But behind what the university is doing athletically is all the really, really important stuff that's going on at WVU Medicine, where your wife works at Princeton. What's going on campus in terms of our new provost hire, who's coming to us as the former provost at WashU. I hope we'll have a chance tonight to talk about the importance of improving our academic profile and what that will mean for us institutionally.
Yep.
We're in discussion about AAU membership.
Yep.
I use this example. Yeah, I used this example the other day. Look at the last 3 national championship games in football. So you had the first year Michigan defeats Washington. And if you look at the top 5 institutions in terms of research and development dollars spent and awarded by the federal government, both of those schools are always in the top 5, top 6. Mm-hmm. They just at times change places. Hopkins is 1, UC San Francisco is number 2. Then oftentimes it's Michigan, Washington, somebody else. And then the next year you had Notre Dame and Ohio State. Mm-hmm. This year you had Indiana and Miami. Right. All 6 of those institutions are obviously in Power 4 conferences. All 6 are members of the AAU.
Right.
So and Michigan, by the way, Miami and Notre Dame, the 2 most recent admissions into the AAU. Correct. So you can have great academics coupled with great athletics. And as they say, oftentimes a football game is nothing more than a 3.5-hour infomercial for your institution. So when you run those ads, you talk about your academic programs, you talk about how beautiful your campus is, you have the images of campus and so forth. And that's what attracts people to your campus. And guess what? Those happen at those 2.5-minute timeouts now, media timeouts for football and basketball. So it's a great way to expose people to what's going on at the university.
Right. Exactly. And speaking of, I'm glad you touched on the AAU thing, because I was going to bring it up. When you first were announced as the next president at WVU, when I was researching for a show about it, I found out that you had written a book about, I don't want to screw his name up. His last name was Gilman, who I think founded AAU. Is that correct? So
he did. He was, one of the 5 presidents that helped found it back in 1900.
So I knew that was going to be important to you. And West Virginia has kind of been looked down upon by a lot of peer institutions over the years. maybe not looked down upon, maybe that's too strong, but their academic ranking and all that has never been up there because of the mission of the university's been a little different, right?
Right.
But they
Yeah.
are an R1 research institution. I think some people forget about that, which is the next level below AAU, right?
Yeah, I mean, actually, R1's the highest in terms of research capacity. Next is R2. And then you have schools that don't fit into either one of those categories. So all the members of the AAU are R1 institutions. But
Right.
to be the best of the best, you're right. You want to get in with that group of 69 American institutions that are in the AAU.
And it's my understanding you the other day when you were presenting, I guess, to the Board of Governors, you talked about wanting to get West Virginia into the AAU. And I know that might seem like a long shot for any of us who have kind of followed West Virginia's academics profile and all that. Why do you think, A, do you think it's doable? And B, what kind of time frame? And C, can you tie that into why it's so important or elaborate it, on why it's so important to sports?
Yeah. First off, let me start with, do I think it's doable? Absolutely. The University of South Florida used to be in the Big East with us.
Right.
They had a president that I think it was 2010, 2011, that made it a goal that the institution was going to pursue AAU membership. And again, this is 15, 16 years ago.
Right.
And if you had said, yeah, someday USF will be in the AAU, I don't think anybody would have believed you.
Right.
So what did they do? They invested in their academic programs, in their infrastructure. They have an extensive health system just like we do, academic medical center in a vibrant place. Tampa's a nice, very nice city. And they did it. And they got in with other schools you recognize. As I mentioned, Miami, Notre Dame, UC Riverside, George Washington University, and Arizona State. So Arizona State is now the 5th AAU member in the Big 12. So academically, we've always kind of been in that bottom quartile. And this is one of those kind of moonshots. And I've used that example many times in quoting John Kennedy, that we choose to go to the moon and to do other things, not because they're easy, but because they're hard.
Right.
And yes, it'll be hard and it'll be a long slog. And it's going to take a lot of effort on our part and investments in key areas, improving our infrastructure, investing in more research and research faculty, making sure our faculty are members of the national academies and are published in the best journals and are cited. All those things in the aggregate will make us a better institution. And I know we're going to talk about conference realignment. I can promise you, if there's when there's a next shift, when there's a big tectonic movement, those institutions that are really good academically, coupled with great athletics, are going to be the ones that are going to be considered.
Yep, I agree, and I've talked about it on my show multiple times. I know a lot of other podcasters or YouTubers kind of poo-poo a little bit, like, oh, it doesn't mean anything. It's just something they use. I mean, when you look at look at the school. I mean, the Big Ten won't even hardly accept schools that aren't AAU. I mean, they have a couple. They have one in Nebraska, but they were AAU when they went in.
Yep, they were, and all the ones they took, Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, all AAU.
Correct. I mean, and even the SEC, a lot of the last several schools the SEC's taken, a lot of them have been AAU affiliated. So
Missouri, Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, not. But yeah, you're exactly right.
So I mean, I think for people to say it doesn't matter is a little bit is an oversight, to be frank.
It does matter. And to your question about how long it will take, it's like getting married. You have to be asked. So it's not like we can just knock on the door and say, "Hey, you want in?" You have to make yourself attractive as a candidate, and they have to invite you. So this is going to be we have a group right now that is looking at the metrics and where we stack up against 4 institutions, all of which you'll recognize. These are members of the AAU that are kind of comparable in terms of our student population and academic offerings, et cetera. University of Missouri at Columbia, South Florida, Kansas, and University of Buffalo. Okay. So, one of these days, maybe on your show, I can show you some slides that show kind of how far off we are. What's the delta between where we are in terms of some of those categories I mentioned in comparison to those schools. And I'll tell you, there are a couple of areas where we're ahead of a couple of those schools, but we got to make it up on it in all the other areas too.
Yeah. I know West Virginia's research funding has went up dramatically over the last several years. I do know that. I have saw that in some studies.
We've gone up 38% in the last 5 years. So we were about $265, $270 million a year. to give you kind of an equivalent, not an equivalent, but a comparison, Johns Hopkins just did 4.1 billion. So they've led the country 42 years in a row in terms of sponsored research, and they're kind of the trailblazer. And a lot of that comes with the what's called the APLU, the Applied Physics Laboratory, where they get over $1 billion a year. But we'll get there. It's going to take a little while, but it's a laudable goal, and I'll tell you, it's rallied our campus. The faculty are excited about it. Our board's excited.
Good.
I've talked to legislators about it. We were up in Charleston making our presentation to our finance committee, and people they're getting energized about it.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Speaking of Charleston, I interviewed a state senator not long ago, and he talked about a bill that's kind of being talked about, at least in Charleston. And I haven't gotten an update from him on where it's at, but it is related to setting up a fund, basically an endowment, to where donors can donate to women's sports. Are you familiar with that bill?
I'm trying to remember who sponsored it, but it's gotten some traction. The fact is, I think people are really starting to push back on the lack of support for women athletics. When you think about Title IX, when it was passed in the early 1970s, and the opportunities that's afforded female athletes for all of these years and the strides they made. And I went to our women's game the other day against Cincinnati. That was one of the best played games I have seen.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they know how to pass, they know how to dribble, they know how to pick and roll, they shoot free throws well.
Yeah.
It was, and man, Coach Kellogg is doing a fantastic job. And whether it's soccer, whether it's rowing, whether it's rifle, our female student athletes are some of our best, and I'm really proud of them. So anything we can do to not only protect women sports, female sports, but to promote them and to promulgate them and to make sure they are successful and they have the resources to be successful is something I'm going to support.
Yeah. And Senator Taylor, who I interviewed, said that as part of that, he thought it was his understanding too, that they were hoping at some point if they could get enough money into that fund, they could potentially start a softball program.
Yeah. Senator Taylor's guy, I know Jay Taylor from, I think he's from Grafton, but his daughter's a very good softball player. So first time I met him, I hadn't even started the job yet, I don't think. And he said, "Hey, when are you adding women's softball?" Yeah. And he kept right to it. That is one sport that is a sponsored sport in the Big 12. We had it at Coastal, very good program.
Right.
The weather is a little bit of a challenge, but if you can play baseball in Morgantown, you can certainly play softball. But I'll leave that to Red Baker. That's a conversation for him.
Right. I get it. Let's go ahead and shift and talk about. There's been a lot going on recently. Cody Campbell's been in the news a lot. I guess he's the chairman of the board at Texas Tech. He's also their largest donor. Yeah. He's the Save College Sports Act or foundation or whatever he set up, where he's wanting to basically combine media rights, all 136 FBS programs, combine all their media rights into one, which would take some, congressional action to do, legislative action at the federal level. He's been getting a lot of flack, especially from the Big Ten and SEC folks. Yeah. What are your thoughts on all of that and where things are going? And, just if you don't mind, give your opinion on his plan and other plans that we've seen like it by Smash Capital and others.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. First off, Smash Capital has been promoting this. And so if you saw this a couple of days ago, the Big Ten came out with a statement of why combining pooling media rights is a really bad idea. Yes. Well, one reason the SEC and the Big Ten are against this is look at the viewership for their games. Right. They own those key time slots on a Saturday, big noon kickoff or whatever Fox does, combined with how many schools were on ESPN College Game Day last season from the SEC. So, look at the NFL model. It doesn't matter what conference you are. It's not like the AFC West is going to head to head with the NFC East for different media partners. Because I find it really interesting. If you watch an NBC broadcast or an ABC broadcast, the commercials or the kind of sidebar conversations will promote another NFL game on a different network. Mm-hmm. You never hear that on ESPN or Fox promoting other networks. I think the challenge, you've only got 32 NFL teams. You have ebbs and flows for every team. Some year your team's up, other years it's down. When you have 130 plus FBS programs, you're going to have very limited interest in some of those FBS teams, like in Northern Illinois or North Dakota State decided to kind of is it North Dakota State? Yeah, North Dakota State just decided to join the Mountain West.
Right.
Like Sacramento State paid what $18 million to get out of FCS and into FBS.
Right.
So they recognize the value for their institution to be seen by more eyeballs. The question is, could you ever pool and come up with an agreement among all the conferences where you basically share the revenue? And the Alabamas and the Michigans and Ohio States are probably getting a little bit more, but they're on the same level in terms of media exposure as some of these other schools. It may not work. In fact, that SBA, the broadcast agreement's been in place since the 1960s.
Right.
I hear a lot of people say it's time to revisit it, but as long as the SEC and the Big Ten continue to have those viewership and the eyeballs on their programs and on their games, that's going to be a tough sell.
Yeah. And I think that's the reason Cody Campbell may be going the route he's going. And again, I'm speculating.
Yeah.
But he probably figures like we're going to have to force these guys to do this or else they're not going to.
Yeah.
Right. With legislative actions. And that's probably why they're pushing back so hard. And, they're threatening to even walk away. Right. We'll go do SEC. We'll go do our own thing. We'll forget everybody else.
So, there's talk of that, that Super League where you've got basically the consolidation of the Big Two. Right. So that's why I think it's so important to make sure as an institution, we're preparing ourselves to be attractive to whatever comes in the next 5, 7 to 10 to 15 years. And we got to do better academically. We got to continue to compete on the conference level and the national level.
Yeah. Great segue. What are some things being done that you can speak to specifically that, speaking specifically to the athletic department? And I know a few of them, obviously, and I'm sure some of my listeners do, but can you speak to a few of them off the top of your head of what some things that are to help West Virginia be more competitive and attractive in that future iteration, whatever it looks like?
I'll give you 3 examples. Number 1 is making in-state tuition apply to every single roster and every single sport. So I don't know if you saw that Texas Tech is trying to kind of replicate that, but not even to the extent that we did it. So when I got here, I had a conversation with Ren. I said, Ren, let's make this happen. I guess we used to have it years ago. So think about if I'm coach of baseball, I'm Coach Saban's, or I'm coach of the rifle team. I know that the scholarship is going to apply to every single one of my student athletes, and I can budget that and spend what I would have spent on an out-of-state kid for other purposes. I can build up my program. I can maybe do some more, beef up NIL, whatever.
Right.
That's number 1 because that's a game changer for us. So coaches are now recruiting for the fall 26 season with that in their pocket, and that is a huge advantage. Number 2, look at Blue and Gold and Blue Enterprises.
Yes.
In fact, NIL's kind of been brought in. You got Don Robinson and his team doing deals, picking up property, doing those things that are providing that margin of excellence that we've got to have. And I really commend him and his team for what they're doing. They're hustling and working hard. The third thing is you got to continue to improve your facilities. I love our Coliseum, but you've heard us talk about how it doesn't have air conditioning. You can't use it in those shoulder months, the shoulder season. And imagine if that basketball tournament that is now played in Charleston were played here, the economic impact that would have on our community, the chance to do concerts, the chance to use it for other purposes is really key. That's one facility. The second, which just got approval from our board, and it was not that it was tucked away, but it didn't get a lot of media coverage because it was on the consent calendar, or excuse me, the consent agenda. But we got approval to move forward with selecting what they call a construction manager at risk to help with that 150 million plus West Tower project. And that tower, as you know, is original to the 1980 stadium, and it needs to be torn down and replaced. And
yes, it does.
We got everything lined up.
Awesome.
Some big commitments, and come the last game of the season, that tower is going to be removed, and we'll be out of pocket for some of those spaces will be moved to different spots around the stadium, but we'll only be one season without the new facility. That's the 27 season. So
awesome.
It'll be open in time for fall of 2028. So those are 3 examples, on the scholarship side, the fundraising side, and the facility side that really show we're invested. And I think the world of Ren and his team, and we're moving ahead.
Yeah. And I know there was an announcement a while back that West Virginia, the board, I guess, approved for West Virginia to be in the top half, I guess, or top 5 of the Big 12 in revenue or revenue generation or whatever, or budget. I'm not sure. Maybe you can clarify that, but is that still the goal?
Yeah, so they passed a resolution, the Board of Governors did, charging us with putting West Virginia University in the top quartile of the Big 12. 16 teams in the Big 12, that means you're in the top 4. Well, guess what? There are 3 private schools in the Big 12 that you really don't know how much they're spending. I don't know how much BYU is paying for their basketball roster.
I have a feeling it's a lot based on the guy that we played against this past.
So you got BYU, Baylor, and TCU, and then you got Texas Tech. So we're just kind of on the outside looking in, but you can't do it all at once. But we've made incremental investments in a lot of different areas in athletics, and it's going to start to pay dividends. I'll promise you that.
Awesome. Great stuff, Dr. Benson. I appreciate you. Anything you want to say to Mountaineer Nation before we let you out of here and let you get back to your life?
Well, I want to tell everybody how much I love West Virginia University, how much I love the state. I've been to 35 of 55 counties. There's not a place I go that I've been so far that I don't find someone who loves the university and tells me a story about my grandfather went there on the GI Bill after World War II, or my mom went to study nursing. My cousin went and became a teacher. I recognize what this university means to the state. Mm-hmm. And I recognize what a Saturday afternoon football game does for our economy and how people's hopes and dreams are sometimes inextricably tied to how our team does. And boy, I've never seen such a down state. And then after that Ohio game, and then conversely, we go up and beat Pitt in overtime. Yep. It did a complete 180.
Oh, it's crazy.
And I love the fact that people are so invested. Without a pro team, we're the only Division I FBS program in the Power 4 competing, and that's special. So thanks to all our fans. You're looking at one of the biggest fans right here. I even got look at that WV, that
flying logo, WV, baby.
Oh my word, that is everywhere, and it's popular, and it's people recognize it. So thank you for the chance to be on with you tonight.
Absolutely, Dr. Benson. Thanks again for taking time out of your very busy schedule, and hopefully we can do this again in the future.
You got it. Thank you. Let's go Mountaineers.
Let's go Mountaineers. Q Country Roads.